After I recorded yesterday's video in true normal fashion, the information expanded, and I realized there was an important step that I left out because I had gotten to a point where myself, I didn't need it. And I realized that this actually is probably happening a lot when we are learning from people on an awakened journey, on an ascension path, because little minute details just become the default and it may not be transferred. So what we were talking about yesterday is using our how we feel to create our reality, and more specifically, when there's something that we don't prefer, to use that as a catalyst to shift into the feeling of how we do prefer. And I mentioned how we feel also causes us to think thoughts that are in coherence with that. And also, when we're thinking thoughts that are in alignment, that feel good, we are also signaling emotions that cause good feelings. So here's where I'm getting at, is that I mentioned that when we feel that thing we don't prefer, then we shift to that feeling of how we do prefer. Yet, how do we get to the feeling? Well, we can just feel the feeling, and this is definitely possible. Yet, what it was, and what I kind of mentioned in the beginning, is that I had received information from my higher self and team letting me know that my preferred outcome would happen. So that is the thought that signals the positive emotions, and then that emotion, then we feel that, and then we start thinking more thoughts in alignment with that, or we just surrender and let it go and trust that the best is always unfolding for us, as it always is. Yet when we are feeling how we prefer to feel, we are actually assisting in the reality creation process to be more to our liking, because we get more of what we're putting out there. So, for example, the more stressed we feel, the more stressful situations will happen in our life to mirror that back to us. Yet the more relaxed we feel, the more relieved we feel, the more situations in our life will reflect back this relief, this relaxation. And I am still processing this giant shift that happened. It's just amazing. And it's so interesting because when I was thinking of it this morning, I asked Spirit so many questions in the last few months, and now I see why, like, all of it came true. Yet when I asked and I got the response, I had no idea how that could be true. Yet now I can see so clearly that it all is. And so this little step that I had just gotten to this default state of not even having to think of it is the thought that things are gonna work out in your preferred direction. So let's bring up an example. So we can talk about money. Everyone likes thinking about money, or maybe not, but we're gonna help shift that here. So say you think of money, and the initial thought is like, will I have enough? Is there enough? Is there more coming in? What you can do is tune into your heart, tune into your higher self, your team, and really ask, is there more coming in? And you will, I'm very sure, if you are on this ascension path, if you're awakened and you are following your intuitive guidance, you will receive a signal that yes, more is coming in. And so now you have this answer. Yes, more is coming in. That is the thought. So now every single time you wonder about, oh, is there money or this or that, you signal more is coming in. And how does it feel when that more has come in? And let's just say it's relief. So then we can go to the feeling of relief. And so this will become so automatic that if ever you have any old thought about money, wondering if there will be enough, if there's more coming in, you'll just shift to feeling relief. And you'll just bypass this idea that, or this truth, this knowing that more is coming in. And you'll just feel how it feels when that more has come in. I hope this is making sense. So that is this little step. And I feel that this happens maybe quite often because, well, I've been learning from others since I awakened 6 years ago. And I've known about heart coherence and this for about 5 years. Yet it's taken this long for me to really, well, I've seen the results in other ways, but to see the results so fast and to see how it was all orchestrated and how energetically this all played out, it's just mind-blowing. And so what came through to share with you today is to trust the process. And my 5-year span, maybe for another is 2 years, and maybe for another it's 10 years. So we all have our own perfect pace that we are going along our journey. So just trust in that. And so the other thing that came through to share was that the whole concept of feeling how something feels ahead of actually experiencing it can be difficult for us when we are just coming into this information. And it definitely was for me. And, someone telling you, oh, just feel like you're rich, and even if you have no money and are in debt, just feel rich and everything will be okay. It's like, are you kidding me? It's kind of, well, it is really tough to wrap one's head around. Yet the more of these beliefs and programs we let go of, the more we come back to our natural self, our true self, which is infinitely abundant. That is our natural self. And so literally every human on the planet is infinitely abundant. And the only reason one's realities don't reflect that is because they've bought into beliefs, programming, conditioning that says, you're poor, you got to work hard for money, you got to do your time for money, money is hard to get, all these beliefs, programs, stories, none of it's true. Yet as soon as we buy into that, we are so powerful that our reality will literally be created around these beliefs and just reflect back what we're believing. So it's coming back to this internal nature, knowing that I am infinitely abundant. And I promise you, because I have been on this path, as you know, since I awakened 6 years ago, and the more beliefs and programs and conditioning I let go of, the more I rise in vibration. And we all are very high vibration. It's just the beliefs and programs that actually lower our vibration. yet everyone is very high vibration. So it's the more of these things we let go of, the more we rise to our true core essence, the easier it is to feel the feelings ahead of experiencing them. So this again is trusting the process, that the more you go along your path, the easier it will be to sense into your timelines, sense into your future self, have your imagination going in the most positive directions, and really creating the life of your desires consciously. And as we are doing this, feeling the feelings ahead of time becomes so easy. Yet in the beginning, it seems like such an unfathomable concept, like, feel rich when I have no money. Like, how can that be? Yet the more you progress on your path, the easier this will be, until it's like so easy. And so I say this because I realize I've gotten to this point where I can so easily feel exactly how I want to feel, regardless of what's happening in my external reality. And this is so powerful, because the only reason we want our changes in our external reality is so that we can feel in a different way. But now we know we can feel that way right now. Nothing has to change. And the amazing thing is, when we feel that way right now we are broadcasting a coherent signal, and now the reality must change to reflect that back to us. And sometimes it happens quickly, like it has done for me recently. Sometimes it takes longer. Whatever is best for your path. It is funny, some manifestations I thought would take 10 years took 1 year. Manifestation I thought would take a month or two took 3 years. So just trust that if something is the best absolute thing for you, you will experience it at the best time for you. Yet sometimes there's things that have to be set up and rearranged behind the scenes to make sure this all works out in the smoothest way possible for you. And that's what I was talking about, how my mind has been completely blown, how just the last year and a half of my life I can see has been, or 2 years has been orchestrated, and how it's all worked out. And again, it's because of the healing. The healing is the letting go of the beliefs, programs, patterns, conditioning. The healing is coming back to our true nature, to walk through this world as unconditional love, to walk through this world without judgment, with no need to make anyone guilty, knowing that we are the creator and it is absolutely impossible to be a victim unless we choose to believe in that illusion. Yet once we know this information, we can't go back. And that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. So yeah, it's just continuing on and trusting that everything is working out. And we can ask our higher self, our team, as much as our human needs for this information, for this reassurance that what we desire is coming to fruition. We can ask what the next best step for us to take. With the money example, we can ask, okay, is it time to look for a full-time job? Is it time to look for a part-time job? Have different ideas. Do you think, do this, do that project? And Spirit will guide you in the exact way that is best for you. In fact, you may just get a call out of the blue, someone offering you offering you a position. That actually happened a couple years after my awakening. About a month after I finished a job, I literally just got a call out of the blue with the position perfect for me. And that I did for a couple years after that. And so it's just trust that everything is working out for you. There's really no other way, because it is a vibrational reality. And also, once you awaken to the truth of who you are, and you're on this ascension path, and ascension is healing, ascension is rising in vibration, which is simply letting go of what is not us. So once you're on this path, things only get better and better and better. And of course, there's challenges, there's ups and downs, like with any path. Yet, when we're consciously embodying more of who we truly are, wow, the difference it's phenomenal in how life changes. Like when I think of the last 6 years, I think of like I realize there's probably always been there, but I notice more and more signs, more and more synchronicities, more and more miracles. And I can see the energetic connections and how things, this bigger picture of how things play out vibrationally, all for our highest good and for the highest good of everyone involved. And so I am here as a mirror, as a reflection, to encourage you to trust in this process. Trust that when we feel the way that we desire to feel, when all of our dreams are come true, we feel that way as much as possible. We are going to create that experience when it is best for us. And in the process, lots of stuff is going to come up. And that was the part where I was so mind blown today thinking about this whole process, that to get to this point and all these different connections, all these interactions, all these different humans, all these different situations, it was all helping me become aware of this programming, of these patterns, so I could let it go, so that I could create the reality of my dreams. Because I set the intention years ago to live as my higher self. That was my top priority. That was my main priority. And everything has aligned to help me release everything that is not truly me, so I can live as my higher self. We can call our true self, our divine essence in this world. And it's not an easy path in many ways, because it's very having to bring up so many old emotions, so many patterns, and working through all this. Yet it is the easiest path, because once we let that go, the rest of our life, we don't have to deal with that again. Like, can you imagine these things that bother you or you have trouble with? You just reach a point where it's not a bother, it's not trouble, it actually becomes a strength of yours by going through that challenge. And so this reminds me of some things in my book series. And in my book series, I just wanted to share that there's a lot of personal examples. And I get really personal in the books, like to a level that I am not on YouTube, that I'm guided not to do on YouTube, but I was guided to do it in the books. So if you want the juice, if you want to really, really go deep, and I feel we're going really deep in these videos too, yet I'm guided in a specific way to share the information. So to leave all these books filled with gems, filled with golden nuggets, filled with tools, practices, processes to assist you to come back to your true self. As the more we live as our true self on this planet, the more joy we experience, the more peace we experience, the more expansion in all ways, meaning more abundance, more health, more of everything every human ever wanted. It's all in alignment. It's all coming back to living as our true self. And it's interesting that with this catalyst to the feeling, so that we can create a reality of our dreams, that it started with what we didn't prefer. It was the contrast that assisted us in shifting to what we do prefer. Not with resistance. We first took care of that. We went inside, we got introspective, we let go of beliefs, we accepted the reality as it was. Because if we don't accept it, if we have resistance, it's not going to change. So that's why it's so important that we do that inner work. And this looks a little different for everyone, a little different for all of us. Yet when we do, we can now use the thing that we didn't prefer as this catalyst to remind ourselves of what our higher self, which is our true self, which is our self, has let us know. And sometimes these may be possibilities, and it's up to us to come into coherence with that for it to be in our reality experience. Like the way I've been shown it is that our timeline is constantly changing with literally every thought we think, every emotion we feel, every action we take. There are some things that are more concrete on the timeline, yes, but we have so much influence. And so the more we can shift to our best case scenario in our mind, and as soon as we do that, we feel that emotion of how that feels, whether it's relief, whether it's joy, whether it's comfort, whether it's excitement. It can be anything, any emotion in the frequency of love. And every emotion in the frequency of love feels good. And truly, everything is love. So we're talking about the emotions that feel good. And we can also call these higher vibration emotions. And of course, when any vibration that doesn't feel good, any feeling that doesn't feel good comes up, of course, we feel that out. But after we feel it out, we can come inside and say, where was that coming from? What belief am I operating that says that fear is the best response? That illusion is the response? Because fear is an illusion. It's not even real. It's just created in the mind. Yet that's what all of these beliefs, programming and conditioning are telling us to do. And of course, we can create new beliefs that are wonderful. Yet, for me, I see something that distinguishes them, is that it's not a belief, it's a knowing. So that's why we ask our higher self if this is, we can think of it as a possibility, but how I like to think of it is just if this is true for me. And then I know that. And once I know that it's true, then I can shift to that feeling instantly. And I don't have to think the thought. And so we can skip that step. Yet we may not even be skipping it. It might be happening so fast. It's like we're reprogramming our subconscious mind. That's what's coming up. That's what's happening. And then this becomes our new default. And the more we do this, the more we feel these feelings ahead of it shifting in our external reality, the more natural it becomes. And it also assists us on our journey because we feel good more often, which means we're actually on a higher vibrational timeline, which is just experiencing more of what we desire, more of what we prefer. So yeah, it's totally worth it. and that's coming from this human's experience. And you can see it's not like I've been doing this my whole life. I lived as a very low vibration. We could say living in the darkness, in the very, very dark darkness for a lot of my years. So yeah, but we're going to focus on the good stuff. We're going to focus on what we've noticed since awakening. And we also know that all that darkness was just assisting us to see our light. 'Cause sometimes it's got to get really, really, really dark for us to really actually realize that we are the light. And so we can be thankful for that. We can have gratitude for that. Have gratitude for all of those experiences. And truly I do. Because this human experience is one of a kind. Earth is one of a kind. You just don't have these experiences on other planets. And so the more you can tap into this, tap into past lives and different things like this, the more you realize what a precious and amazing opportunity it is to live on planet Earth as a human being. And I remember the first time I heard something like this, I thought, oh, no way. Like, even after my awakening, I thought, why did I come to Earth? Like, of all the planets, like, it's so so difficult, it's so dense, there's so much programming. But you'll get to a point where you realize why, and you truly will be able to love your experience beyond words. Being able to love being a human on planet Earth. Oh, and that also shows you your healing, because you're seeing the reality more of what it is, instead of through all this fear filters that we layer on all over us, and then becomes very hard to, well, it's actually, you're not seeing the true reality. We're just seeing everything through distorted lenses. But yeah, I will leave it at that. And again, my books, they are available on Amazon, info in the description box. And yeah, have a beautiful day wherever you are, and sending you much love and blessings on your path. Okay, bye-bye.